We're joined now by HuskerOnline Sean Callahan. Sean, good morning. There's a couple things this past week regarding some players from Nebraska. Brian Tapoo was originally committed to Oregon State, then commits to Nebraska a couple days later. What happened there, and what is the significance of that commitment for the Huskers?
Yeah, I mean, number one, it was kind of bizarre just how it all played out because he left Lincoln as more or less a silent commit. I mean, I think they thought he was coming, but he still was going to take his official to Oregon State because he had family members and connections there. And then all of a sudden he announced his commitment to Oregon State, which was quite a surprise at that time to a lot of people. Then 3 days later, he announced he was decommitting, and then he committed to Nebraska. So, he's an international player from New Zealand, a tackle. And I think, for Nebraska, they needed tackle bodies in this class. Plays for Tony Finoti, a former Husker player. So there were a lot of things that just made sense about his addition. Nebraska flew in his family from New Zealand as well to join him on the official visit. So they did everything right here, and they were able to close things out.
Yeah, I don't think he's moved away from his family.
Right. Yeah, he's in Utah, but his family lives in New Zealand.
Right. Okay, then also on this show, we have not talked about Jeremiah Jones, who's I'm going to say, Sean, 6'5", 205, 210 athlete, could play either side of the ball, didn't have a ton of any big offers outside Louisville. Jeremiah Jones, kind of under the radar prospect. What would you say about Jeremiah Jones?
Well, I mean, on threes, evaluators rate him at 89, and, a 90 is a 4-star. So they rank him as a high 3. 24/7 Sports ranks him as a high 3. So I don't, I get what you're saying on the offer thing, but, the ratings evaluators give him a really high mark. His size, he measured 6'5", 217 on his official visit, and they're recruiting him as a defensive athlete. He can play wide receiver. He can play offense, but Nebraska's bringing him in as a defensive athlete, and, he could be on the back end. He could grow into a linebacker on the edge. He has a lot of upside. This is your classic Matt Rule type of recruit, the type of guys that he likes to add to his team, this long, rangy athletes that can play a lot in Nebraska. Yeah, he was a guy that definitely emerged later in the process, but once you lay eyes on this guy, he's a very good-looking prospect. And, when you see the pictures of him on his visit, you're like, wow, this guy's got a lot of potential, a lot of frame, and his film's good too. But Kentucky's not typically a place Nebraska goes. I'm trying to think. Wandale Robinson obviously was from the state of Kentucky, but you don't see Nebraska going to Kentucky too often.
Yeah, Wandale's from Frankfurt. Okay, Sean, 14 players now, I believe. I think we're at 14 in the class, Nebraska's class of 2025. How would you assess the class? They've had some additions in the last week. What do you think of the class right now?
It's solid. I mean, it's not a world-beating class by any means in terms of its ranking right now, but they're also not as high on the numbers as a lot of teams in college football. So, they're waiting on a few more pieces. Bryson Weber, a cornerback out of Missouri City, Texas. Will Hawthorne, linebacker out of Ames, Iowa area, and Gilbert. That's another guy. And obviously Christian Jones. I mean, so there's 3 or 4 key pieces. Sean Hammerback out of Winter, South Dakota is another name. There's another Hawaiian player, Aiden Manatua, that they've been recruiting, that they brought in on an official visit. He's a safety out of Hawaii. So that, there's probably a good 5 pieces still out there. And I think that 14 is going to find itself probably to 17 here by some point in July.
Okay. On Friday, 4-star lineman S.J. Olafatula will choose between Nebraska, Michigan, and Miami. Any idea where that's headed to, Sean?
Yeah, it just that one feels like Miami right now. He visited Nebraska a while back. He's been here a couple of times. Sip and I we interviewed him way back in the season when he was here. And you've got the Polynesian angle with Raiola there. You got his high school teammate, Xander Ruggiolari, in Lincoln right now, already playing for the Huskers. But I know just from our intel, Miami might be the team to beat right now.
Okay, Sean. Now here we got to talk about Chase Lofton. You mentioned Christian Jones, who would be the second or first best player in the state, depending on who you talk to. He's a linebacker at West Side. Chase Lofton went to Florida State. He might, you could make a case that he's the best player in the state of Nebraska. Assess that loss for Nebraska. How do you size that one up?
Oh yeah, he's the number one player on On3. He's the only player in On3's rankings in the state's top 300, or in the nation's top 300 rankings. So just on that right there, that's a blow. But then you can also make the argument, the state of Nebraska, and Brian Munson wrote this today in HuskerOnline, has produced a Power 4, Power 5 tight end every year since 2015, and the state has produced 26 tight ends that have gone Division I since the class of 2016. So no position is deeper in the state, in the last 10 years. I mean, think about that. Since 2016, there's been 26 Division I tight ends. There's been a Power 5 tight end every year since 2015. So, yeah, that's a blow. But it's not like Nebraska hasn't taken tight ends. I mean, Carter Nelson was much higher ranked a year ago. Okay. Thomas Fedoni was the number one ranked tight end a couple years back. So they have very good tight ends on this roster that they've brought in the last couple of classes. They've added Bear Tinney this year. Isaac Jensen now next year will be the guy that, he's another Power 5 tight end, Power 4 tight end in the state of Nebraska. So it's bizarre, but this state produces more major tight ends than a lot of states with, far more people. It's one of the positions the state really puts out a lot of players at.
There's no explanation for that. It's just odd, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, years ago, Vince Marrow, who's now at Kentucky, he said that to me. It's over 10 years ago. He's like, there's one position that Nebraska you guys produce out there. It's a lot of tight end type bodies for whatever reason. And, I said to somebody, those are the players that Tom Osborne used to recruit and turn into offensive linemen. Yep. Back in the day, and now they're tight ends.
Last thing, Sean, but regarding Sier Wright, the USC transfer defensive back who's committed in Nebraska, is that a guy that you expect to be a starter off the bat, or what's the projection for Sier Wright from USC?
He's got a chance to. You got to see what kind of shape he's in when he comes in. He's only going to get 3 weeks of the summer workout program, and so it's like 6 OTA workouts before fall camp opens up. On the 31st. So I think we'll see how he's at in terms of his shape. But then can he pick up a new defensive scheme and whatnot? But you look at that position, it's Malcolm Hartstug with Bly Hill out right now, and you've got Jeremiah Charles, Mario Buford, Dwight Boodle. So he'll get right in there, and he'll have as much experience as any of those players, with Hartstug being the most experienced at this point with Bly Hill's injury. So that will be one to watch. But, yeah, I mean, I would say he's got a very good chance to be on the field for the Huskers if he's ready to go.
Sean, Big 12 Media Days next week. How about that? It's on us.
It's already. Yeah.
It's on us.
Already.
It's upon us. You want to send me out
Jake,
there?
That would be a heck of a trip for the ticket if you guys could do a Media Days in Vegas.
Well, we'll consider that, Sean. It's a quick turnaround for next week, but we'll see what we can do. We'll make it happen.
It would be an oddity. It would be fun. People would be like, what are you guys doing? You're not in the Big 12.
Vegas would be a sight to behold.
It would. It would. All three of us in Vegas?
Why not?
You could send me out there, Sean. I don't know if our people at HuskerOnline would understand what's going on, but it'd be fun.
Nostalgia for the Big 12.
Yeah, nostalgia.
A little nostalgia there. Yeah. Sean, always good stuff. Thanks for the time. We'll chat with you next week.
Hey, thanks, guys.